What are you hearing from your sources in terms of what are they telling their companies to do if they're private equity?
A really amazing scoop yesterday by my colleague Sridhar Natarajan. Blackstone telling companies to tap credit lines from banks. Carlyle doing the same. Let's see if other private equity firms really follow suit. This is not hurting the banks today, but it could hurt them in the future if these companies are not able to repay those obligations. But there's not only that dash for cash, as you're saying, there's also an issue here in which we expect a lot of downgrades of a lot of credit also. So where will the banks be in all of this? They're saying that it's not a systemic issue as of right now. Remember, the banks are much better capitalized than they were before the crisis. But with that said, it could still be a significant strain moving forward.
Well, and not only that, but it's not just the banks that have exposure. I think energy credit, and it's a different fear than it was in 2016. What are we hearing about, say, shadow banks or other issues?
Well, so the shadow banking industry really stepped in when the banks stepped out. You saw Michael Corbat yesterday saying small and medium-sized businesses are the ones that are going to be hurt the most. That was where the private equity and private credit industries really walked in. That's longer-term money. But with that said, they're not stepping in right now. The banks have massive exposure to these companies. They're highly levered. They've lent a lot of money to these shadow banks as well. So the system is more interconnected than people really think. And so the longer term effects are not going to be seen right away.
Which leads us to energy, because obviously like a Blackstone got hit really hard yesterday because 10% of their distressed debt is in energy. What kind of bankruptcies are we looking at?
Well, so let me just put it this way. Below $40 a barrel, pretty much nothing works in U.S. shale. So we're going to have to see a lot of restructurings if we stay in this low environment. As we said earlier, we don't quite know if this is a Saudi-Russia spat. In other words, the Saudis trying to press the Russians to come back to a negotiating table. What we do know is that Russia offered to extend the deal. Saudi Arabia wanted a 1.5 million barrel a day cut. In the end, it became a free-for-all. So how much pain can they take? Can they take more pain than the credit names here, or than the shale companies? And I think ultimately we'll see some kind of rebalancing, because even for Saudi Arabia, this is a very expensive exercise. Now, the weaker names, the weaker hands are not going to be able to withstand it. So I think we're going to see a rotation. The weaker balance sheets will go into the stronger balance sheets. There'll be a big restructuring exercise here. We will see, unfortunately, a lot of companies probably fold, and they're already taking action. Many of them are bringing down rigs. They're firing crews, right?
So this week, one of my banking sources said something very wise as well, how much of this is going to float into the American economy right away. He said, you know, we have the energy industry here. We have travel and entertainment and lodging. That's the Florida and Texas economy right there. And so how long is it before jobs start to be impacted? It doesn't seem like it's too far away. I have other sources saying that they believe that their companies, their restructuring clients, are going to be in a liquidity crunch between the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Right, and then here, you know, I think there's also the potential the White House tries to pressure Saudi Arabia to maybe take it a little easier to give the industry more time to restructure, right? So there is that possibility as well. It may not happen as fast as we think.